Welcome to another episode of Soft Signal. My name is Varun and I'm joined by Aditya as always. He's, I think, a
Sorry,
bit
sorry, sorry, sorry.
distracted.
Okay, okay, okay. Let's start over.
Let's
Okay.
pretend I just said that. Welcome to Soft Signal. Your turn.
Ah, shit. Okay, are we?
Welcome to another episode of Soft Signal. My name is Varun and I'm joined by Aditya.
Welcome again to yet another episode.
And been a few weeks, been not a couple of weeks. We just got busy, couldn't record something. We're back to review three series, none of which involve India. So this is actually, I think, a first for this channel where we are not going to talk about Indian cricket at all this week. Even though the IPL has just started, we'll talk about it more next week. So the three series, like two tests and one day series. So we had Australia visit Pakistan after 24 years. Was billed as a blockbuster series, huge, very momentous series in terms of what it meant, but might not have lived up to the expectations. England traveled to West Indies as part of their red ball reset, as they called it, after their humiliating Ashes campaign, and turns out it didn't wasn't much of a reset. And then, I think the biggest surprise, Bangladesh traveling to South Africa for an ODI series, and the tests are actually coming up, but the ODI series and Bangladesh actually winning that series. So maybe let's just start with the Bangladesh series actually, because this is a team which beat India 3-0. South Africa beat India 3-0 just a couple of months ago. And now Bangladesh travel there. This is not a weakened South Africa side. They're going to be weakened for the test, but they're not yet weakened. And they lose 2-1. So how does that happen?
Yeah, I have no idea how that happens because Bangladesh has been a consistently poor side outside Bangladesh for many, many years now. So for them to go to South Africa and beat South Africa is huge for Bangladesh cricket. And it's not like they've just about beaten them. They beat them comprehensively in the first match, and then they've beaten them comprehensively in the third match as well. So uh, so that's good for Bangladesh cricket. Also, yeah, Shakib was on that tour. So I was about to say that they did it without Shakib, and I just realized that he's back. And in spite of the recent issues with the board, he was in that squad. But um, let's put it this way: without Shakib playing a stellar role, they've managed to beat South Africa in South Africa. So it's huge. It's huge for them. And this augurs well for them in the upcoming Test series. I mean, who knows? They might actually pull out a surprise there. But uh, let's wait and watch. I will say, however, that I think the victory against New Zealand in New Zealand a few months ago has probably given them some kind of belief that they can go outside Bangladesh and still beat teams.
Yeah, it is like irrespective, it's an incredible start to the year for them. Like winning a test match in New Zealand, winning the ODI series in South Africa, and now, like I said, all of the IPL players, so Rabada, Nokia, um, the couple of other names are not coming to mind, but basically South African players had a choice whether to play the IPL or whether to stay back for the test against Bangladesh, and they all chose to go to the IPL. So it's gonna be a slightly weakened uh, team that takes the field as well. Marco Jansen also not there. Lungi Ngidi will be gone. So there's a chance. South Africa's bowling is not very strong at all, and Bangladesh have the confidence, and who knows, they might win a series in South Africa before India did.
Yeah, that will be incredible, right? So they will be after Sri Lanka, the second Asian team to win a series in South Africa, and that's like two of Asia's weakest teams. So, and this comes on the back of India's recent loss in South Africa, which they should not have lost that series, but they did both the
Yeah,
ODIs and the Test. So, if Bangladesh pulls off a Test series victory, it's huge. It's going to be absolutely huge for them, and I think that might be the start of some decent Bangladesh cricket in the future, because I think at the end of the day it comes down to confidence. I think if a team is confident, then they are more likely to win more, even if their skill set isn't as strong.
Yeah, that's what I was going to come to actually, because in tests, I know we just talk them up, but still think they have a way to go. They're great at home, but away they're not so. Still have a ways to go. T20 is like a lottery, but in ODIs they've actually a decent team. Like in 2019 in the World Cup, also they played pretty well. I think they beat South Africa then as well. They also beat West Indies, if I remember correctly. And they ran a couple of other teams close. In New Zealand, they ran them close. So Bangladesh are not a. The next World Cup is being played in India in 2023 next year actually. Do you think there may be dark horses as for the semifinals?
Well, I always find it difficult to say something that great about Bangladesh. But you're right. I mean, the conditions suit them. Plus, they've got a bunch of really experienced players now. The likes of Tamim, Shakib, Mahmudullah, Mushfiqur Rahim. All these guys have been around for a very long time, and they're kind of a very part of a very strong core in the Bangladesh team. So you're right. I mean, who knows? Anything can happen, right? Once if they're playing in these conditions, because Bangladesh's matches in the 2023 World Cup will be in Bangladesh,
Is or
because
is it all in India? I think the whole
that's all
tournament
in
is in
India.
India. I think.
Then maybe that's my mistake. But if even if they are in India, the kind of pitches, as
Yeah,
you said, they might help Bangladesh's playing style. So anything can happen. Anything can happen. I'll be surprised if they reach the semis, but this time it's not as much of a long shot as it usually is.
yeah. I mean, it's good that they're improving after about 20 years in the game, like at this top level. Better late than never, I guess. So great for Bangladesh. Let's move on to maybe let's go to England, West Indies next. So yeah, big reset for England. Three Test match series. First two were really boring, not completely boring draws. Like England tried to make it interesting, but West Indies were just like I think Craig Brathwaite at the top of the order. I think he batted something like 600 balls or something in that second Test. So they could not get the that final inroad that they needed. And then the third Test, which just finished a few hours ago, typical English disaster. Like they should have probably lost that match even more. They had that 90-run last wicket stand, the first innings that helped them. But yeah, ultimately they end up losing by 10 wickets. So not much of a reset for them from the
Yeah, I mean,
Ashes.
not at all. Not at all. I mean, it's quite disappointing for them, I think. Also, they went to West Indies without Broad and Anderson. And this was supposed to be like an opportunity for the other bowlers to stand up and say that, okay, Broad and Anderson are probably almost at the end of their careers, but here we are, ready to carry the baton forward. But I don't think that's the case. I mean, none of their bowlers really shown on this trip, which means that maybe Broad and Anderson are still by far, their best bowlers, even though they're on. Anderson's almost 40, right? So,
Yeah.
and Rod is on the other side of 35. So, it's not looking too good for England. This performance in West Indies has been underwhelming. And let's face it, West Indies is not a great team either. It's not like they're unbeatable or anything like that. I mean, they can totally be beaten even at home. So for England to go there and lose is quite a poor result for them. And I know that Joe Root has come out and said that he still wants to be captain, but I'm pretty sure that given that after the Ashes there were so many of you know, administrators from England set up who were fired. I think now with this result in West Indies, probably Joe Root's time as captain is coming close to an end as well.
Yeah, but the thing with that is like who will succeed him? I don't think Stokes wants to be captain. And then Broad Anderson, obviously, they're not even in the team and they're anyway too old. So unless they go for something really young and untested, which England traditionally have never done, I don't really know who they could make the captain in this setup. The Moeen Ali would have been a good shot, but he's now retired and he was also not always first choice. So I don't know, Jack Leach or someone like that. Most
Yeah, I mean, one of the options could be Chris Wokes, but I don't know if he's had captaincy experience in the past. Also, his record overseas as a bowler tends to be extremely poor. Um, but in terms of experience, I think he's probably the next most experienced player. Um, so yeah, I mean, I don't know, but it's kind of unfair, right? I mean, they fired so many of the administrators, the managing director of cricket, except Ashley Giles, the coach Chris Silverwood after the Ashes. They still stuck with Joe Root, and now the same team's gone to West Indies and lost there as well. So it's if they don't actually do away with Root as captain, then it sends very wrong signals across the whole ECB setup. So I don't know. But the thing is that they've lost a lot of test matches in the recent past, and clearly something needs to change.
yeah, and to the bottom of the World Test Championship. I actually hope this gives me more confidence now for our test against them later this year. I know it's just a one-off test, going into with no preparation at all, but honestly, the Indian side should win that test. What do you think?
Yeah, but the thing is that I feel England is still quite strong at home. In those conditions with the ball swinging around and all. And for India to just turn up there without any practice, against the swinging ball is a huge risk. Yeah, so I think at home England can still beat India in that one-off test, especially an Indian team that arrives without any kind of practice. So, and who knows, they might play Broad and Anderson
I
in
thought
that
you were
test.
going to say Pujara and Rahane for a minute, and I was confused.
Yeah, I think that ship has sailed, but I
It
think
has
they might.
sunk.
Yes, yes, and yeah. So they might play Broad and Anderson, and then that might in those conditions it will still be challenging against them. So I don't know. I think it's a huge risk just turning up to England without any sort of practice because those conditions are really specific.
Yeah, maybe we probably did promise that we wouldn't talk about Indian cricket this episode, and I've been guilty of that twice now. But yeah, it's England cricket is in trouble. I think they made that huge focus on the white ball game after 2015, and it resulted in success. They did win the World Cup, but they then forgot about the red ball game. So they're unable to focus on more than one, like either both white and red at the same time, which is quite strange for a country with their resources and talent. But just maybe another trip to the Caribbean or South Africa to poach some more players, and they should be all set. Uh, and moving on to the final one, which was Pakistan, Australia's tour of Pakistan. Probably one of the most boring series I've watched, I think. I did try to get interested because we did cover this, we did have a whole episode dedicated to it in a way. So it was only fair to watch a bit of it. But yeah, like for the first test especially was just extremely dull. Second test was a bit better because I think Australia made it interesting again. And then the third test was similar to the first two, but again, Australia made it interesting and finally managed to win that third test and won the series 1-0. Did you watch any of it? What were your impressions from the series?
Yeah, so I didn't watch any of it. I just followed it online. But I think without actually watching a single ball, the first impression that I got was that the pitches were quite flat. Team scoring 500 odd, in both innings across the game. It sort of signals that the pitch is not deteriorating and that it's probably too flat to start off with. I mean, uh, today, if scores of 300 seem to be the norm. right? And so when you get 500 and 600, etc., you know that the pitch is kind of flat. And then when the team that's batting next comes out and gets the same, you know for sure it's flat. I mean, so that's the first impression I got. Of course, what stood out in the second Test match was Babar Azam's amazing, effort to save the Test match with 196. I think it was in the fourth innings. So that was truly a special knock, because we all know that batting in the fourth innings is probably the toughest time to bat. Against and that too against the odds, because there was no victory in sight. They could only save the Test match, and also they had had a massive collapse in their second innings. So in Pakistan's second innings. So I think that sort of stood out to me as like the moment of the series, I would say. And let's face it, Babar Azam is an amazing batsman. We talk about Fab Four, I think they should be Fab Five with Babar Azam in that list. He's really an amazing batsman. And I think we'll probably see a lot more such performances from him over the years, where he actually goes abroad and also scores centuries and comes back. So for Pakistan, so that augurs well for them. But yeah, I'm surprised that they actually lost the series, because I think again home conditions, and that two conditions which they should know better than anyone else, because no one else has gone there in the last so many years, right? So I think uh, I think I'm surprised that they lost the series. Nathan Lyon finally got a fifer in the end of that series as well. I think in the last innings he got a 5 wicket haul. And also amazing performance by Australia's fast bowlers, both Cummins and Stark, coming to the fore and bowling them to victory in that last match.
Yeah, and now that's 2 out of 2 series for Cummins as captain as well. So he's kind of trying to show there's a bit of an image he's trying to build as a like bowlers can be captains as well, which we have also discussed in one of our episodes. I mean, interesting that you said that not a lot of teams have visited Pakistan, so they should know the conditions, which I agree with. But then that also means that Pakistan have also not played at home, right? So I think someone actually on Twitter, I saw one of an analyst from Pakistan who did say that they need to figure out what their home advantage is, because they were not, they didn't know what kind of pitches to prepare. Ramiz Raja, first of all, I don't know why he's so involved. He's the chairman of the board. He speaks like he's the coach or the captain of the team. He came out and literally said that the first test they made a flat pitch because didn't want Australia's bowlers to get an advantage. Now that is such a defeatist attitude, because Pakistan has Shaheen Shah Afridi, who just voted the cricket of the year, and they have Hassan Ali, they have Naseem Shah, they had Haris Rauf in the subs as well. So it's not like Pakistan don't have bowlers. So to say something like that is just so surprising. And then the second and third test, I don't know. They don't know what kind of what their home advantage is, and they don't know what their strengths or their team strengths are, or like who to pick. Because the two spinners they picked in this series were Nauman Ali and Sajid Khan. Both of them were extremely ineffective. Like Lathan Lyon could outbowl both of them single-handedly. So their team selection was all over the place, and where it was just a mess. So I think they need to figure out for their own good what their home advantage is. Like, is it a spinning wicket? Is it a fast wicket? Is it a batting wicket? Like, and then pick teams according to that.
Yeah, that's a good point actually. But the thing is that I mean they would have played domestic cricket, right, in
Yeah,
Pakistan all these years. So it's surprising that they don't know what it is. They should definitely know what it is, because it's not like none of these guys has played cricket in Pakistan from 2010 till 2022.
yeah,
Also, they beat South Africa in Pakistan last year, I think.
yeah.
And I think there was
Sri
one other,
Lanka also,
yeah, Sri
and
Lanka
Bangladesh, I think.
also. Yeah. And I was about to say that there's no big deal beating Bangladesh, but then we just discussed about them at the start of this episode. Uh, but uh, but yeah, so I mean, they should know. So therefore, for Ramiz Raja and all these guys to come out and say that is stupid, of course.
Yeah,
And Pakistan has good fast bowlers. I mean, that's the basic thing for Pakistan. They are always going to produce some really good fast bowlers. And even though there was no cricket there for the longest of time, they still produced some really good fast bowlers like Shaheen Shah Afridi. So yeah, it's quite surprising for them to come out and say that. And I would still say that it's surprising that they lost this series. I mean, in today's time, today's day and age, I think uh, it takes a huge effort for a home team to lose a series at home.
I think that also shows the gulf, and there is a gulf for whatever reason, big three, financial domination, but there is a gulf between India, Australia, and New Zealand in Test cricket. These three teams are clearly, I think, even though we lost to South Africa, I'm not forgotten that. I think India, South Africa, India, Australia, and New Zealand are the three best teams in Test cricket for sure. And then there's a Gulf, and then you have Pakistan, South Africa, West Indies, and England. I think are in another league altogether. But there's a Gulf, and that's become more apparent because if you win a series in New Zealand or win a series in India, it's such a difficult thing, right? And or even win a test is a big deal. And now here
Mhm.
teams are coming and winning series, like teams like Australia are coming and winning a series.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. But yeah, I hope India now actually goes abroad and wins in all these countries. Okay, they've done it in Australia. They better win that test match in England.
Or draw
It's
it at
going to be
least. Yeah.
tough, or at least draw. It's going to be tough. I know that for sure. But they need to do that because this Indian team, right? Everybody says it's really good, but it's time that they've ticked off these boxes. They had an opportunity to do it in South Africa. They didn't. They still got hammered in New Zealand a couple of years ago. Okay, they've beaten Australia twice, but then that's it,
That's the
right? We
only
still
thing
have
we
to wait
can't.
until we beat England.
Yeah, but the quality of this team we should have been like we can talk about how good the team is. They is good, they are good, but the
Have to
results have to
follow.
come in. The ICC trophies and the white ball have to come in. Well, we'll see. And yeah, finally, maybe it was just another prediction we got wrong. I think I confidently said I don't think Australia is going to win even a single test, and I thought it was going to be 3-0, and I think you said 2-0 or something. And yeah, so one more to add uh, to our
I don't think
glowing list of predictions.
I don't think we've got even one prediction correct so far.
Yeah. Well, except Rohit Sharma becoming Test captain. I think that's what you got correct.
Yeah,
That's it. Which
but
was
that was
not a
so
very
obvious.
hard prediction. Yeah. Anyway, I think we're done for this week. There's the IPL going on now till for 2 months, so there will be something to talk about next week. Hopefully, we'll have about 10 matches played, so we'll see who are the early movers and best good performers. But till then, stay safe, and we will see you next week.
Yeah, see you next week. Take care.